Hello, my name's James Mather and I'm the director of the Johnston and Mather Construction Project Management Programme. We only deal in construction project management, not project management in other fields. And we come from an architectural background. But since we began our training, which was then a certificate offered by Reading University, we've really embraced all aspects of the construction industry and also those people who want to come into construction, people who have perhaps been managers in other fields and now want to do some development, for instance. So we get not only representatives of all the construction disciplines, engineering, surveying, as well as architecture, but people from contracting firms, and then those who want to move into construction from management in other fields. And my question to you today is why are we all bothering with this? You know, managing things is what everybody does. You can't avoid it in life. And within construction, we are in a peculiar environment. It's not like anything else. Management in construction tends to involve more ad hoc situations. In other words, situations which have simply developed. So why bother? Well, because of dissatisfaction, I think. If we take architecture, so that's my own background, we never got taught how to run anything. You know, designing was the main thing. And lots of architects will design all day long and most of the night too. And they sometimes regard managing a project as just an unfortunate part of the process that has to be tackled before we can get back to designing. But then there are other architects who have fallen into construction because they were better at it than those around them. So, and if they do well in that environment, then they can end up managing projects on site and perhaps not doing too much else. And all of this is without any education very often. We learn about building contracts, of course, and things like that. But management science is not part of it, and many architects aren't all that interested in management science. So why are we doing this? You know, we started intending to address this deficit in the architectural profession, skill in managing. But why are we trying to do it if people are not all that interested? Oh, it's pushing water uphill. Well, let's just leave that and look at another group, which is people in construction companies, for whom managing projects is a central part of the job, not a peripheral part, as it may be seen elsewhere. And some of those have come to me, people in senior positions, and they've said, look, I'm just tired of bluffing. You know, I talk about management, I do management, but I use terms which I don't really understand all that well. You know, I'm quoting a term rather than referring to something which is embedded in my way of working. Now, in the big depression of 1989, which had terrible consequences for the construction industry, I was running my architectural practice, small practice in central London, and we very nearly went bust. We didn't quite. We hung And when we got to the end of that recession and work began to flow again, I thought I must never let this happen to me again. I must not be a practice which has no particular profile to it. You know, it is a general practice. That's how we would have described ourselves. I've got to have a specialism so that people have a particular reason for coming to me. And I thought, well, James, be honest with yourself. You're never going to displace Richard Rogers or Farrell or anybody like that off their pinnacle. You're not the most brilliant designer. You can be a competent designer, but you're not going to be a brilliant one. So it needs to be something else. And I decided that I could offer a superior management service. So I went off to Reading University and I did an MBA there. And whilst I was doing it, I became friendly with an architect on the staff. And he and I were sitting in his room one day, bemoaning the state of the architectural profession. Now, architects don't get taught to manage projects. They often do it slightly resentfully because it carries them away from their main interest. And they don't do it all that well, all too often. That's the truth of the matter. Now, at the time, I was very much involved in a disaster relief organisation called RED-R, which stands for the Register of Engineers in Disaster Relief. I was the token member from architecture, and in fact I became chairman of this organisation. And RED-R had 14 different training courses, weekend training courses, in all sorts of disaster relief skills such as shelter and water supply, logistics of various kinds, bridge repair, you name it, it was all there. And we learned by doing. So you went away to some remote location and you were told that 20,000 refugees were arriving on Thursday and you needed to provide for them, and you got to build it. And this was wonderfully effective because, of course, you made loads of mistakes, but you learned from those mistakes and you became a lot more competent. So I said to my friend at Reading, Tim Cornick, I said, look, couldn't we do something similar for people coming on our construction project management course? And we agreed that we could, that we would work by doing. And our main aim would not only be to impart knowledge, but to make people competent. So why bother with this course? Well, there's a very simple answer to that. Learned from this experience in disaster relief, which is to learn by doing, and doing in safe circumstances where your mistakes don't matter. Nobody is hurt by them. You are simply learning how to deal with a situation, and if you go wrong, then you will have learned a lesson which you're not so likely to repeat under real circumstances. And that was all in the mid-90s, and ever since we have been running this course for everyone in the construction industry so that they can learn from mistakes made in the course, excuse me, how to deal with real situations, the sort of situations that can crop up, and maybe several of them cropping up simultaneously, and which can trip you up if you don't really know what you're doing. So the reason why we're bothering with project management is to learn how to do it. As you learn how to ride a bicycle, you would find it hard to explain to anybody how you ride a bicycle, except by using terms like balance, which are in themselves quite hard to explain. So we learn how to do it through doing, and the knowledge of project management all that information that you can get examined on if you decide to take the exam in the APM or whatever, maybe in your own professional discipline. All those terms serve that object. The idea of the theory, the management science, is to underpin your understanding, and that feeds into your competence. So the reason for taking up project management is to develop something which firstly enables you to think, and secondly enables you to react to risks and to issues and to real situations in a way that is reliable in keeping your project on target and serving your client well, and ending up at the end of the day still sane and hopefully having made a profit.